Chimney talk, let's call it. Because it's one of the most common questions I get is a lot of the specifics about the chimney, and often I'll get questions from people who want to do things with the chimney that are really far outside of what one would consider normal, chimney kind of rules or standards. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about those things and sort of, talk about the normal chimney rules, as it were, the normal chimney installation guidelines, and how those sort of, relate to rocket stoves, because I do think that there is some confusion out there that a lot of people want to have special chimney rules or chimney guidelines for their rocket stove builds, and so I think that's something that I'd love to talk about. So let's do that a little bit. So first and foremost, we know that the chimney provides the draft, which really powers the stove, right? It gives you all of the draw that gets that air moving through the stove comes from draft, which is really, for the most part, to put it simply, a difference in temperature between the intake and the exhaust. There's difference in pressure and other things as well, but just to sort of simplify it, we'll just talk about the difference in temperature between the intake and the exhaust of the chimney. And so, for our rocket stoves to run smoothly and to always have, that passive draft induced into them so they're burning efficiently, so they're burning enough air through the fuel to get the proper mixture, and so that they're not smoking back, we need to maintain that draft at a certain level. And of course, that draft is always going to be fluctuating depending on conditions inside and outside and all those things. So general chimney rules for average, box stoves or normal box stoves are a pretty good place to start. And I don't have codes or guidelines right in front of me, but I know general rules. And for the most part, what we want to do is we want to exit vertically as possible out of the stove. We don't want to descend after the stove at all. We'd like to just try to ascend. And ideally, we try and ascend with as little diversion from our main direction, our main goal as possible. So we don't want elbows if we can avoid them. And more importantly, we want to try to maintain draft within that chimney. And so that means we really want to try and maintain temperature within that chimney. And that's one of the main reasons why insulated chimneys are so effective. So these are pretty basic concepts. I know I'm not covering anything groundbreaking here. But ideally, your chimney is going to go out of the stove and straight up through the roof and out. Now, that isn't always possible. So it's also acceptable to go up a little bit, maybe 90 degrees sideways for just a few feet and out the wall and then up and out the outside of the building. That's typically going to be okay as well, although every little bit of horizontal chimney and every 90 does contribute to reducing your draft a little bit. So you want to eliminate as many of those as you can. Now, what I was talking about the difference in temperature and trying to maintain that temperature in your chimney, that's an important thing to consider, because if your stove is extracting the maximum amount of heat from the exhaust, then you're going to be putting the exhaust into that chimney at a very, fairly low delta, a fairly low difference in temperature. And so you want to maintain every degree you can from there all the way out. So that implies you want an insulated chimney. Now, what I'm trying to get to here is that how insulated or how crucially, how important your chimney's design is really depends on your front end design. So some people will build their stoves and try to run them such that they are extracting every last bit of heat. In a stove like that, your chimney efficiency, let's say, is going to need to be absolutely perfect, because you haven't saved any heat in the exhaust to help power that up through the chimney. So if you lose any, it's going to be detrimental. So really what I'm trying to say is, people will say, well, Matt, can I put a couple elbows in my chimney? Do I have to use an insulated chimney? Is it possible to go through the wall? And my answer to all of those questions really is, it depends. and it's going to be a tuning issue at the end of the day. And so, again, going back to one of my favorite topics is the bypass. I always have bypasses in my stoves, or something I call a passive bypass, just due to the nature of the design to help drive draft. And, those give you a lot of leeway in all of these other questions. How big can my bell be? What kind of chimney can I get away with? So that's an important, thing to understand, that if you are trying to keep every last bit of, drop of heat in the stove and in the house, then you need a perfect chimney. Most of us have some compromise in there. Most of us are not doing perfect heat capture, and so we're usually going to save some to power the chimney. And personally, I find it's really valuable to allow for some extra to go in the chimney, and by that I mean my bypass. It allows you to overpower the chimney and get yourself out of smoky cold start situations, get yourself cooking in the summer. There's a lot of reasons to do it, but more importantly, it just gives the stove a really broad, really smooth working range. And so that's why the bypass allows you to get away with some different things with regards to chimney design. A little more, you can design a little more loosely. But what I really wanted to talk about was some of the questions that I get from people who want to do something just completely outside of normal chimney suggestions. And I believe that these are holdovers from the old Yanto Evans book of rocket mass heaters, and how he preferred to run his exhaust horizontally through the wall, despite the fact that it means a stove that is really finicky. And so we have that legacy still, where there's people who read about rocket mass heaters and they think, hey, this is great, I'm going to be able to run my exhaust out the wall and not have a vertical chimney. And, we've talked about this before, but I just want to reiterate that if you don't have that vertical chimney to power the draft, you're going to have times when the stove smokes back into the room, times... yeah, Iron Bridge Homestead. Oh, that Yanto. I mean, he's a spicy character, and I love everything he's done for us. But we do have to go back and now and then and explain that some of the choices he made aren't going to be appropriate for everybody, and that's really what I'm saying. And Pete asks, can you, in the case of harvesting of too much harvesting of heat, leave that bypass open just a crack? And yeah, Pete, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that once you have that bypass in there, you really have the ultimate control. You could have a giant bell, and you could just crack your bypass a little bit, and you'd always be powering your chimney with some heated air, but just a little bit. So the bulk of your flue gas volume has to go through that big bell. And in that way, you can draw the gases into a bell much faster than they would go in just a passive system. And so, you might have a situation where if you didn't have that bypass, you'd be struggling hours to start up. Whereas if you have that bypass, you can just kind of crack it a little bit and just pull heat through the whole system. Stove looks like it's burning great right from the get-go, and you're already starting to heat up your bell, even though you are blowing a little out the chimney. It's much better than blowing smoke into the house. So I'm a big fan of that, and that's why I like the bypass, because you can really incrementally adjust. It just allows you to overcome all of those conditionally, the things that are the situations that are caused by different changing conditions. You can change your stove to meet the needs of whatever those conditions are. So yeah, and Iron Bridge, totally. He said, Iron Bridge Homestead says, Yanto's book was informative, but we've grown to understand other methods work better for sure. And yeah, and that's how I feel, Iron Bridge Homestead. I absolutely agree with you, but I would give Yanto the credit and say that it's not that he didn't learn the things that we learned. It's actually, I think it's the opposite. I think he was ahead of us in a lot of ways. I think he's much like me. He just says, here's what my goals are, here's what the compromises are, I choose this. So he chose that exhaust out the wall, despite how finicky it was, for a host of reasons that he had that were his personal reasons, but that was his choice. And frankly, I think it's kind of genius. I think he moved in a lot of ways beyond what we would recommend to anyone just building their stove, because it's not like that's for someone advanced. It isn't that. It's that's for a crotchety old guy who knows exactly what he wants and is, and believes in this, the compromise, this theory gives him these advantages at these disadvantages, and it's worth the trade-off. And so I really like that a lot. So, and yeah, Iron Bridge, we can't forget Kiko either. And Kiko is great. I've actually gotten to spend some time with Kiko in person, and he is just an unbelievable wealth of knowledge when it comes to the clay and the plasters and the masonry, building in the natural building sphere. And yeah, those guys, they deserve more credit than I could ever give them, to be honest. I was so inspired by them. So anyways, going back to chimneys, I wanted to just finish up the main question I got. We talked about, ideally you're going to have a chimney that looks very much like the chimney on a box stove. Ideally it's going to conform to the same guidelines. But I get a lot of questions from people, and like I said, I think it's from people who, not necessarily maybe that they read Yanto's book, but where there's just a legacy of people, out there saying, oh, rocket stoves don't need a chimney, or I heard they don't need a chimney, or whatever. And so I do get a lot of questions from people asking if they can run the exhaust from their stove under the floor and out the wall, or across the room, and down. Sometimes people want to go down and dump it outside, and I think that is to me that points towards Yanto's legacy. But I want to talk about that because I really want to work hard on dispelling those ideas. I don't think anyone's foolish for thinking them. I don't think anyone's foolish for wanting them. I mean, it would be awesome if we could. And frankly, we talk about rocket mass heaters often. We talk about our builds, and we talk about bringing the gases below the core. So we do have descending gases, and they do go low quite often. So what I wanted to talk about in this chimney discussion was the difference between when the gases are in the stove, in your masonry body of your stove, or when they're in a chimney, and how you should really consider those two parts of the stove to be completely separate modules. So don't look at the stove and go, well, we can have these descending gas paths, so it must be okay for the chimney to go downhill, because that's not the case. Once you're in the chimney, you are typically for most of us aren't going to be using Class A triple wall insulated pipe. Most of us are going to be using non-insulated pipe. And so that chimney flue pipe typically represents a really, a pretty efficient radiator. It's cooling the gases quite quickly because it's shedding that heat into your space. So those single wall flue pipes do a really good job of removing heat from the exhaust gases, and in doing so, they really can harm your chimney's efficiency. So I use it, single wall stovepipe. It's fine. You can use it in vertical configurations. You can use it for a short run of horizontal. But basically what I'm saying is the farther you go horizontal or down, it's just going to act like another barrel radiator in your stove. It's going to remove heat from the gases, and it's going to impede draft. So when people ask me, can I come out of the stove and then go down? I'm always going to say no. And I'm always going to say I think it's a bad idea. Now, does that mean you couldn't get it to work? No, it doesn't mean you couldn't get it to work. You might be able to get it to work, especially if you had it, returning and coming back to a bypass, and you had a vertical chimney at the end. You could power up something like that in a time of need. But you're going to have, anytime I think the main point I want to get across is that when you compromise your chimney flue path, you're going to compromise the stove's performance overall. And you're going to have hard starts. You're going to have smoke in the house. It's just going to be a lot more trouble than it's worth. So I know cutting a hole in the roof sounds awful. Believe me, it terrified me for a long time. But I think that most of you will find that it's actually a relatively simple job, and it usually beats all the alternatives. Even going through the wall and going straight up, for most of us that means you're going to run into the eaves once you get up there, and you still have another something you have to deal with, a lot of work either way. So I find it's easier to just go straight up. And with that said, I will say when you're laying out your stove and trying to find where it's going to go, it's a really good idea to start from the chimney exit, because you're going to need to go in between rafters or beams up on the ceiling. And so it's a good idea to make that hole, use your plumb bob, drop it down there, center your stove's chimney exit on that plumb bob and build around that. That's usually the best way to go about locating your install in your space. You can get it close on the floor, look up, figure out where the chimney goes, plumb the chimney, and then you're good to go. So Manny, great to see you here, man. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you, my friend. You and I'll have to talk in private at some point, but thank you for all your input over these weeks. And Manny says, I just added a bypass to my heating stove this weekend and learning the new dynamics of the stove. And that's a really, really, really great observation, Manny, because I have often been thinking about you. Manny's in a place that has very warm air temperatures compared to most of us. Although I imagine in the mornings you get a little bit of delta. You must be probably 50 degrees in the mornings or so at your coldest. But at any rate, Manny doesn't have a ton of delta to work with. He doesn't have a big difference in temperature when he's starting up. And so, he lives in a moderate climate. And I always, my stoves are designed with bypasses, so I'm not too concerned. But I see people building stoves in moderate climates, and I am always aware that the startup issues become even more pronounced when you don't have the big difference in temperature. So we can notice it in any climate when we're trying to burn in the shoulder seasons. It's harder to start when your stove is cold and it's a pretty warm day outside. You don't have much difference in temperature. It's always going to be the most difficult starting conditions. So if you live somewhere like that, I think a good functioning bypass is mandatory, and I think the ability to just crack your bypass and slightly power up your chimney to get through some of those times when you don't have a lot of natural difference in temperature is really, really valuable. So yeah, Manny says down to 57 last night. So that's cold for where Manny is, and that's a challenge for a masonry heater. It's not a huge challenge for a box stove, because box stoves, keep in mind, a box stove, the exhaust is right on top of the firebox. So almost the instant after you light it, you have heated gases in the chimney powering your draft. But in our masonry heaters, the gases have to find their way through a big serpentine of cold masonry first, and that robs all the heat, usually entrains moisture into the gas, and you just have a real hard time getting started if don't have that big difference in temperature. So that was a long topic that sort of came back around to bypasses, but more importantly, I really wanted to touch on chimneys in that topic, and just encourage you, if you're looking at a build, thinking about starting your build, just encourage you to do your best to plan for the best chimney that is possible in given your situation. I think most of us have done builds where we've compromised our chimneys because we think it's going to make things easier or get us a little better location or this or that, and usually you end up disappointed because the heaters really aren't any good unless they're great. If they're not working, it's part of your life, right? You're going to use it day in and day out, ideally, and so you just don't want to be fighting with it every day, I guess is what I'm getting at. So there's that.